Over its 2 decades of existence, the Monster Hunter series has presented players with many different mysteries. Of them, none are as infamous and controversial as the equal dragon weapon and its implications. Did humans really create biomechanical monstrosities to fight in some kind of ancient war? Is the series' setting a post-apocalypse brought about by hubris and greed? Are monster hunters the descendants of cruel transgressors? It's a topic that has divided fans for basically the entire time that the franchise has existed, and it tends to inspire very passionate discussions. So, today, I would like to go over what we know about the equal dragon weapon, what it is, and if it even belongs into the official Monster Hunter canon. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, me. It's finally happened, folks. I wrote a book. Hunter's Journal is a fan-made, in-universe publishing of the diaries of monster hunters, describing their various exploits across the vast world of the series. This first entry describes one hunter's journey through the region that started it all, the Forest and Hills, or Verdant Hills if you played Monster Hunter GU. It details the thoughts, feelings, and actions of this unnamed hunter while out on a seemingly typical quest. Each physical book is handcrafted and printed on parchment, with text by me and art by the amazing Valky. You can get your copy over on the Guild Surplus store. Thank you for your time, and back to the video. Let's first set the stage to make sure we all understand what we are even talking about. The very first lore book in the Monster Hunter series, Hunter's Encyclopedia 1, included a mysterious illustration showing a kind of flesh dragon, held together by visible sinew and metal constructions. This image, labeled Equal Dragon Weapon in English, was accompanied by a truly shocking text blurb. This was an artificial dragon warrior found in ancient ruins that were actually the storehouses of a long-lost civilization. Creating a single one of these mechanized abominations is said to have taken materials of over 30 adult dragons, resulting in a creature that surpassed its natural counterparts in both strength and firepower. This technology was perfected during the so-called Great Dragon War, leading the dragon hunters, which were the ancestors of modern monster hunters, to overhunt dragons in order to make more of these mechanical weapons. The resulting conflict between humanity and dragonkind destroyed much of the known world and left both sides at the brink of extinction. It is the kind of revelation that completely turns a story on its head, recasting the cave punk aesthetic of the original Monster Hunter game as a post-apocalypse. And so, understandably, people's first question upon seeing this illustration is usually, is this really canon? Is this the actual secret that lies at the center of Monster Hunter's world? Well, no. Let's rip this band-aid off immediately. The equal dragon weapon, as seen and described here, is in fact not canon. The image also appears in Monster Hunter Illustrations 1, the series' first art book, which is unique in that it clearly differentiates between world illustrations, that is, images of the setting that are considered canonical, and rejected concepts, which are exactly what they sound like, ideas that were rejected and thus not absorbed into the series' setting. And unfortunately, in the image index, the equal dragon weapon is explicitly labeled as the rejected/unused artificial dragon concept. It does not get much clearer than that. Okay, but hold on. If the equal dragon weapon truly is an entirely unused concept, how did it end up in a lore book? The first lore book, no less. This is where it gets interesting. In an interview for a 2019 developer chronicle, Monster Hunter Principles of Creativity 2, an interviewer did actually ask Kaname Fujioka and Yuya Tokuda more or less exactly that. How seriously should readers take concepts like the Great Dragon War, and why were they included in the lore books? Fujioka does not directly answer the question, but points out two things. The encyclopedias are written from an in-universe perspective, and should be read with the awareness that the narrator might not be fully reliable. And he reveals that the older lore books were handled by a separate book production team outside of the core dev staff. This book team was given access to both lore notes and unused concepts and told to go nuts, with the only directive being to stay mysterious and vague about anything that wasn't actually seen in-game. Fujioka acknowledges that this inherently resulted in the books containing implications that were not intended by the development team themselves, especially in the use of rejected concepts. But that, to him, the creative freedom offered by this approach and the sense of a world that is mysterious and beyond grasp are core to the spirit of Monster Hunter. So, this is what seems to have happened with the Equal Dragon weapon. It was a discarded concept that the book production team picked up and reinterpreted into this harrowing backstory, independently of the development staff's actual intentions regarding the canonical world of Monster Hunter. So, this image is basically not worth thinking about. We can just throw it into the bin of non-canon curiosities and move on with our day, right? Well, no. If you watched my documentary on the development of Monster Hunter 1, you might remember that the game went through a pretty extensive reimagining in the middle of its production, being remade from a fairly generic fantasy setting to the more unique world design it is known for today. During this period of development, the team created countless sketches and illustrations to land on the tone and feel of the series, and the Equal Dragon weapon image was almost certainly created during this time. The point is that even if this specific image was not used as is for the series' setting, the ideas behind it likely influenced many of the design decisions that came later. After all, Fujioka did not tell the book team to remove this page, so it likely does represent a vibe that is in line with the original creator's canon. So, how did the idea of the Equal Dragon weapon manifest in the actual Monster Hunter canon? For one, this series is obsessed with the concept of ancient civilizations, of grand empires long gone that defy explanation by the guild's modern scholars. This can be plainly seen in essentially all of the games. You have the destruction and remnants of trade, the existence of ancient equipment such as Artian gear and relic weapons, ruins in places like Moga and the Everwood, the ancient religions of the ruined pinnacle, and the list goes on. But don't take my word for it. In the same interview as we mentioned before, Fujioka also comments on the concept of ancient civilizations, saying, "We have consciously been including out-of-place weapons and armor since the very beginning. Hints like these strongly suggest that if you were to dig through the history of this world, you'd likely find cultures with technology far beyond the limits of the current day. It's a lot of fun for us as creators, as it tickles the player's curiosity by making them wonder which civilization this equipment once belonged to." So not only is the idea of ancient civilizations pretty integral to the setting of Monster Hunter, but them having had technologies beyond current understanding also seems to be baked in as far as the dev's intent goes. Even the concept of using monster materials to power these technologies seems to have made it into the games themselves. In Monster Hunter DOS, using your pickaxe on the walls of the ancient tower will sometimes reward you with Kushala Daora scales, implying that the structure is made from monster materials like that. Monster Hunter Wilds expanded on this idea with the Ice Shard Cliffs map, which seems to be almost fully constructed from the corpses of monsters, a fact that is both visible in-game and directly referenced by Alma in one of her tea time dialogues. So even if this specific image is discarded concept art, the ideas behind it clearly echo through every corner of the series' world building, even today. And so, we return to our original question. What is the Equal Dragon weapon? How do we fit this page into the wider lore of the series, as its presence in this book clearly invites us to do? I don't think there is a fully correct answer to this, but in my opinion, this image has been recontextualized as an in-universe myth describing Xochitl and its destruction of Wyveria. The lore books being written from a diegetic perspective is not merely a stylistic choice, as Fujioka points to it explicitly when asked about the canonicity of the Great Dragon War. Instead, it allows the books to exist in a zone of uncertainty, being subject to historical confusion where a truth of the Monster Hunter world is distorted over time before reaching the ears of the scribe writing these books in-universe. This is not just me pulling headcanons out of thin air. Every Monster Hunter lore book includes an unconfirmed cases section, where mysterious monsters and unconfirmed rumors are presented by the author with speculative sketches and illustrations. This section is often where concept art is reused as a world-building element, and, as you may have suspected, it is also where the Equal Dragon weapon first appears. So with this in mind, it seems plausible to me that in-universe, the tale of Xochitl was distorted and embellished over time, until it turned into the myth that this section presents, a case of a misinterpretation making it all the way to the royal scriveners. There is, in fact, numerous precedents of exactly this happening in the world of Monster Hunter. In Hunter's Encyclopedia 2, we learn that Rajang was initially described as having wings due to unreliable eyewitness reports, a description that made it all the way into the books. And in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, the octopus-like Nakarkos has its tentacles mistaken for a pair of heads by researchers. And perhaps most relevant to today's topic is the infamous legend of the Black Dragon. While we, as players, of course know that it refers to Fatalis, both Monster Hunter Tri and Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate revealed that many different regions across the world interpret the story differently, sometimes twisting it to fit other monsters like Alatreon or Dire Miralis. Even the Fatalis version of this myth is quite variable. The standard version ends just with the destruction of Shrade, but there are characters in the earlier games that retell a version of it in which Fatalis is actually stopped and killed. So, in my opinion, the Equal Dragon weapon is to Xochitl what the Black Dragon legend is to Fatalis. A myth containing a kernel of truth, born from a terrible catastrophe reverberating through time and cultures, even if its form gets distorted with each telling. When Wyveria fell, tales of a man-made dragon and the great sin that gave birth to it spread across the lands, the actual shape of the fiend and the details of its creation slowly changing as people forgot and misremembered. Eventually, such tales reached the royal scriveners, who were working on the first Hunter's Encyclopedia and included the tale in their dedicated unidentified cases section, with an accompanying painting based on the descriptions found in the myth. To me, the Equal Dragon weapon is in-universe, the echo of Xochitl's story filtered through a millennium of oral history. Meanwhile, from a development perspective, I believe that the Equal Dragon weapon was a foundational idea for the world of Monster Hunter that was discarded not because of its basic concept, but because it was too overt and specific. But while this iteration was ultimately not used in the final game, The feelings and ideas behind humanity's meddling with artificial life remained as an undercurrent within the games and books of Monster Hunter, until the idea was finally allowed to fully crystallize in Monster Hunter Wilds' plot regarding Wyveria. And there you have it, the certified Oceaniz take on the equal dragon weapon. As always, keep in mind that I am just a guy. I am pretty confident in this interpretation and my use of official materials, but I don't want my opinion to be used to shut down other fans' imaginations and discussions. We're here to have fun. All I hope for is that my perspective was at least a little interesting to you. Thank you all so much for watching, as always, and as usual I would like to extend special thank yous to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon or through YouTube channel memberships. A very special shout out to Admiral Frost, Alistair in Wonderland, Andrew, Autumns, Big Mac, Black Ace 202, B, Bruggy, Carcerion, Chocolate Coat, Claire Miboon, Coomer Noob, Darkest, Destro, Draco Vane, Dragonlord, Dissy, Echo but Evil, Ethan Toombs, Feopuz, Golden Sushi X, Grüße an Mama, Harpier, Hellbug Hunter, Hudsan, I'm just happy to be here, Iron Camel, It's Robin Now, Jack of All Shades, Jacob Coleman, Joey Tribby 58, Magenta, Carl the Crab, Kogath, Lieferdienst, Logan Bilodeau, Lone Strider, Low Motion Algae, Lufish, M1 Have 1 2, Macaroni Leviathan, Makamawi, Makot 02, Matt Hat 124, Meta Defiance, Mr. Pyramid, Molly Mockery, My Name Gone, Nico Soleil, Nils Schlatter, Noah Schantz, Oak Wood Tree, Paige Gandalf Soda, Pancake Poppy, Person 212, Precum King, Punonym, Quali, Quixotic Metroid 906, Rambling Robin, Raspberry, Regal Eagle, Resident Necoarch, Wronger 97, Rose, Ryan Hook, Skiba, Shebo, Silly Wizard 97, Siragon, Sir Newt, Soruka, Sparkdrake, Tactywolf, The Alchemist, The Iciest Man Alive, The Dollarfish, 3 Palicos in a Trench Coat, Tigrex Chew Toy, Tipped Over, Toby Kadachi's OnlyFan, Tsuki Midnight Boshi, Unk with Good Puss, Uthduna is an Octopus, Vulgar Beast, Wandering Soul, Wolf of Time, Zafi, Dino Garcia, Zion H.V. Augenson, and Kuroneko. Managed without laughing too hard. I'll see you next time. Bye.